And I'm going to welcome everybody tonight. Hi, this is Cristina, and I just want to welcome you to Gardening and Oils. And I just started talking about, gardening is one of my passions. And the unfortunate thing is that heat is not. So in the very worst heat of the years, when your garden needs probably the most care. I mean, I'm in the garden in the spring and in the fall a lot planting, because I plant garlic in October, then I harvest it in June or July. I plant, sometimes I'll plant a spring crop, and then I'll plant a fall crop, which will go in about August. The deer have been really liking my green beans this year, so I may have to plant a fall crop. I've got yellow squash coming on. I've got enough tomatoes to start canning. I ate my first cucumber today. I have Howard squash blooms that are about this big. It's just wonderful to garden. And I think the main reason people don't like to garden is because it is tedious. You have to keep it weeded, but I'll tell you the benefits of growing and seeing the results, of the seed that you put in the ground or the plant that you planted is really, really incredible. So I do want to welcome you. Maybe you're a gardener, or maybe you're a startup gardener. Wherever your passion lies as far as gardening, there are some basic things that seem to apply to everyone during the stages of their gardening journey. I have this dream that I could just turn in my entire acre into garden. Kenneth loves grass. He likes to mow it, I guess, because he does. But I could just do border after border after border of everything from flowers to, annuals, perennials, and vegetables interact, interspersed amongst that. But things like weeds and pests and even bad harvests. And right now with my beans, I'm not going to get the harvest that I'd expected. Every garden has them. We have, drought one year and more than enough rain another year. We've had lots of great rain this year. And when you get lots of rain, you get the results of a good, healthy garden, but you also get many, many more weeds. This class is going to be your ticket to tackling even the hardest of seasons. You're going to have tricks that can help you succeed from the day that the seed goes in the ground till the day that you harvest it. Now, sometimes in the spring, I get really, really anxious to start gardening. We've gone through that season of winter and it's been cold and miserable and nothing's growing. And March or April comes along and we just want to plant seeds. Well, this spring was really hard on my young plants. Squash came up, my yellow squash came up. I had lots of kale that came up beautifully, and I've got a garden full of kale. But some of the other things got too cold. My watermelon didn't do well, so I don't have watermelon this year. But what we're going to talk about is about how you can use essential oils in the garden to help in a way that results in fruits and veggies that have been lovingly cared for in an organic way. I've always planted and grown my gardens organically. It's very affordable to achieve a sustainable garden without the use of harsh chemicals. And so this class, I hope, will encourage you to do that and teach you maybe a little bit about those kinds of things. So, we know about essential oils. What are essential oils? They're chemical compounds that make up the lifeblood of the plant and they've even been referred to as the immune system of the plant. And we're able to use them through the harvest, we're able to use them because of distillation after we harvest those plants. The part of the plant with the beneficial chemicals might be the stems or the leaves or the bark, and it's harvested and sent through a very meticulous distillation process. And every plant needs very specific distillation in order to get the quality of oil that Young Living provides. And of course, Young Living has over 25 years of experience in that art and science of distillation. So we know what we're doing. We basically know what we're doing. So you have to understand that all, oils are not the same. Don't buy cheap oils to use in your garden just because you think, well, it's just going into my garden. You don't know what you're putting in your garden if you're buying oils that aren't Young Living. And I think everybody on this class, everybody who comes to these classes understand that there is cheap perfume grade oil out there distilled at high temperatures and high pressure. And by doing so, it'll yield an adulterated oil. A lot of companies will even use solvents, or they'll make up oils in the laboratory from the get-go. In other words, they can simulate the fragrance of lavender and still have 100% lavender on the label, because in their mind, that is lavender. It smells like lavender. And, it's just been made in a laboratory. So I think most everybody on here understands that Young Living decided to rise above the standard here in America to ensure that we had the very, very best purity, the very best quality. And of course, this is called Seed to Seal, and this is our quality commitment. We abide by very, very strict guidelines to fulfill our promise that we're only going to send the best products to your home. Our plant material is grown on corporately owned farms, and it is 100% organic. And we take great care to preserve and protect the resources of our plants. We hand weed our fields with zero use of pesticides, and we have state-of-the-art food grade distillers as well. Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you about is, of course, when you're out in the garden, there's not only pests on your garden, but they will pester you as well. And I will tell you that, and you can tell that I use my insect repellent out in the yard because it looks like it's been out in the yard. It's got dirt all over the top of it. I put it in my back pocket a lot of times. I love this stuff. This is a DEET-free, 100% plant-based insect repellent, and it works. It absolutely works. Now, I do wear long pants in the garden. I got, like gardening jeans, but I don't cover my arms. I used to like wear a light white shirt, but I like to, get the sun on my skin. That's vitamin D, and I'll use this this dirty container that's been outside because it's in the garden with me all the time. And I put it on my arms and I put it on the back of my neck, and I usually have my hair up under a hat, and I have a hat with a brim, and I put it all over my neck, if it's exposed, and they do not bother me, period. The insects will not bother me. Now, we used to make our own all the time. And here is an outdoor spray that you can use. This is a 4-ounce glass bottle, and you can put in a couple of ounces of witch hazel and a couple ounces of distilled water. And then these are just some oils that you can use. You can use 20 drops of thieves, 20 drops of lemon, 20 drops of rosemary, 20 drops of citronella. In this particular blend here, this has rosemary, lemongrass, geranium, and spearmint, and thyme and clove. So there are a lot of different blends that you can use, but citronella and lemongrass and geranium, all of these are very, very effective. And I just, it's just easier for me to use this, and it's an oil base, and it moisturizes my skin like nobody's business. I just love the way my skin feels after I put the insect repellent on. So I don't know if you know this, but our insect repellent has been tested to repel mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, using 100% naturally derived plant ingredients. It's just really a great way to keep the pests off of you when you're working in your garden. Okay, so now what about pets? Now, I have a dog, Mingo, and I basically use purification on him. I will use purification to keep ticks off, fleas. He's out in a wooded area pretty much all day long, and he's around another dog, and I just want to make sure that he doesn't get ticks, because in this wooded area, of course, that would be a haven for ticks. But I use purification. Now, here is a DIY Pets Be Gone. I actually use black pepper to keep him out of areas of my garden. And I'll buy like a pound of black pepper, and I'll sprinkle it in areas because they don't like the smell of it. I've also made a sprayer, and I've sprayed areas where I don't want him to be. As much as we love our pets, let's face it, they can get into the garden and they can cause quite a mess. So I've really tried to teach Mingo to stay out of certain areas of my garden and to stop digging. He likes to dig. So a simple and safe way to encourage them to stay away is by using scents like black pepper. Cayenne pepper is another one that if you just, buy, like I buy bulk herbs at Soulard, which is, it has an herb store there, and you can get it a lot less expensive. But again, you can make sprays, and dogs dislike the smell of black pepper, and cats dislike the smell of rosemary. You can also plant rosemary if you have cats. Therefore, they're going to choose to stay away from the areas with those scents. And if you don't know already, the essential oils are perfect for this. This particular Pets Be Gone recipe is to, soak little strips of cloth in a pan of warm water with 5 to 10 drops of essential oil like black pepper or rosemary, and you can tie them around stakes or plants. Hey. Oh, he sees 2 dogs are walking in our front yard. No, you can't go out there. Hey, you can't go out there. Hey, come here. Come here. Stop barking. Okay, so yeah, he sees 2 dogs out in the front, and he wants to go and play with them. But anyway, you can take these strips after you've got them soaked in a bowl of water with the oils, and you can You know, put them in areas that you don't want your dogs to be around or your cats. Hey, where's your chew toy? Where's your chew? It's okay. There's nobody there. Again, I just like to buy, you know, a pound of black pepper, sprinkle around where I don't want him to dig. You can put it at the base of plants. The thing is that when it rains, it's going to, you know, that scent is going to dissipate. So you're going to have to reapply. So just think about that. Okay, so you can waste so many hours with weeds, and summer is short enough. So let's not spend unnecessary time dealing with weed overgrowth. If you're trying to get rid of unwanted plant growth that doesn't involve harmful chemicals that are linked to so many neurological, hormonal, and overall health imbalances, just know that there are some safe alternatives. Weeds hate cinnamon because what it basically does is it burns them. And so you can take 25 to 50 drops of cinnamon bark and 4 ounces of distilled water and mix it together, and then just spray those offending weeds. And it works. It honestly works. Now, it'll wither them up, and you have to shake it, and then you'll just have to sweep away, you know, give them a day or two to wither up really well. Sometimes those weeds will begin to grow on our beloved plants that can cause poor growth. Oh, you know, not weeds, but insects, bad harvests, or even plant death. And they can block the pores of the plants responsible for the breathing and eventually choke out the plant completely. They can also steal vital nutrients from the plants, which significantly decrease the amount of your harvest. And we don't want that. So here is a Plants Love spray with 10 drops of tea tree, 10 drops of peppermint, 10 drops of citronella, and 4 ounces of distilled water. Now, right now is the perfect time to make this spray if you have, you know, potatoes, to get rid of the potato bugs. I plant basil in between my tomatoes, so I have no green hornworms at all. I don't have anything that bothers my tomatoes. So basil is really, really a powerful plant and oil to protect tomatoes in particular. I grow basil throughout my gardens. I have multiple beds, and I just find that it seems to keep the insects off really pretty well, except for my kale right now. If you have any cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, you're going to have a moth problem if you don't make this spray and start spraying it every day. Just go through and spray it every day, keeping those moths off of there. Diatomaceous earth is another thing that I've used in the past. Again, if it rains, you're going to have to reapply all the time, reapply. But Plants Love spray is a really, really great spray to make in a 4-ounce bottle. Yeah, just go out there and plants will love you. They will love you. So here's companion plants. And as you can see, green beans love lavender and basil. Now, lavender is a perennial, so you'd have to leave it in the garden and plant the green beans around it. I don't use perennials too much in my vegetable gardens. I do them in my flower gardens. So basil works really well because you can use the basil all summer long, and it's in there being a great companion plant. Again, basil is good for broccolis. Sage is good for carrots. I haven't planted any carrots this year. I haven't had good luck with carrots in the past. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to have good luck with carrots in the future. But this is something to remember, to plant some sage in there as well, along with your cucumbers. Onions, I've got my onions in kind of mixed in between my squash and my kale. And So basil is in there already. I'd really like to grow some German chamomile. And, this is going to help me to remember to do that maybe next year. For potatoes, again, basil and sage, and I've got lots of basil growing, and tomatoes, basil. So you can also add 10 to 15 drops of the corresponding essential oil to a 4-ounce glass spray bottle, and then shake and spray your plants with that too. Companion planting is going to keep the bugs off and make your plants healthier and happier and stronger. If you grow 2 types of plants next to each other, they both really rely strongly on nitrogen for growth, and they'll compete and overuse the nitrogen in the soil and starve each other out. For example, corn and tomatoes are an example that of plants that don't play nice together. However, I do want to give you a little tip. So I went, most of you know that I was on vacation, and I went to the Plymouth plantation where, the Mayflower landed, and the Puritans, or they call them Reformed Christians, came and settled in 1620. And they learned from the indigenous people how to plant corn, beans, and squash. And so what they would do, and I'm going to do this next year. It was really a great learning experience. As a matter of fact, I bought a book from the Plymouth Plantation gift shop called Native American Gardening. And one of the things that they did was they made a mound. They planted 3 seeds of corn, 3 seeds of beans, and 3 seeds of squash in each mound. And the mounds were probably 2 feet apart on all sides. And what they said is that this corn starts to come up, the beans and the squash, the beans kind of protect the corn on the bottom, keep it shaded on the bottom, and the squash vines and fills the whole area to keep the water in. And harvest them a little bit different times, but what a great idea. And they actually had that kind of a garden set up. So these are traditional methods that, the indigenous people, the Native Americans, taught our ancestors when they came to this country. And there's some other things in here, how to make squash dolls, and what to do with the smaller ears, and there's green corn and yellow corn. And you just want to make sure that your seed is not GMO, so that you get a true breed of plant, and you can save your seed. Now, I bought a Hubbard squash at a vendor fair last year, and a Hubbard squash is a great big squash, and I just love the flavor of Hubbard squash. It's a real rough skin, and they come in different colors: green, blue-green, orange, all different colors. And then I saved the seed, and I've got a beautiful Hubbard squash plant. Like I said, the blooms on them are probably this big. Those squash will be really large. Hopefully they will produce great big squash. So yeah, so another example of not working well together are like carrots and tomatoes in the same. They don't work, they don't work together. Lavender or basil next to your green beans, or make a companion spray. That's really what you want to do. Okay. The pollinator party. Did you know that some plants self-pollinate? So I've got a garden in my kitchen where I'm growing tomatoes and jalapenos for salsa, and I have to pollinate them because I don't have bees in my kitchen. And so I have to shake the plants in order for the pollen to set on the blooms, because I don't have pollinators living in here. Fruits like peppers can stand alone and produce fruit, but not every plant does that. And lots of them need the help of cross-pollination between male and female plants. So know who helps with the pollinators. Of course, bees will help. Bees and butterflies and some of the friendly insects that you want to have in your garden. Without them, you'll have really measly harvests, and you'll be disappointed that all your hard work didn't really result in the delicious produce that you wanted. Pollinators are attracted to the smell of flowers, and luckily some of our wonderful essential oils are distilled from flowers. Oh, how convenient, right? So you want to create a spray using essential oils to spritz on the flowering buds of your garden to encourage pollinators to come in and get the job done. So here's the pollinators party spray. You put 6 to 8 drops of lavender, 6 to 8 drops of orange in 4 ounces of distilled water. And when those buds start to come on, spray it every day. And that will attract those pollinators and you'll have a better crop. Shake and spray and party with the pollinators. So right now I'm going to start canning. And first, we're tending the harvest. It's a wonderful time of year, even though it's really hot outside. All of my hard work and all my patience has paid off so that I can pick those yellow squash. I can pick those tomatoes. I can pick those cucumbers. I can eat all the kale I want. I can give it away, which I did. My Lily, I guess, was going to make some kale and chickpea soup, which sounded really, really good. I've been eating turnip greens tops, and when I thin my turnips, some of the turnips are very small, so I'll chop them all up and cook them in a pan and make a little soup with those. I love turnip greens. Turnip greens are really healthy, and I don't want my turnips too compacted so that I'll have big turnips at the end of the season. So you want to make sure that you're tending the harvest and you're thinning out any of the things that are too crowded in there. If you're like me, sometimes I find that my fresh produce goes bad before I can eat it. I do a big garden and there's only 2 of us. And so I need to take care of it. Make sure that when you bring it in, you always wash your fruits and vegetables, because you want to make sure that there's no nasty spots on them. Like, we brought in a big, huge bag of tomatoes yesterday, and one of the tops of one of the tomatoes was going bad. So I cut it down, I cut it off, and then I'll smell it. I'll know a bad tomato. If it's mold, then you throw the whole thing away. Mold has spores and it grows into the vegetables. So if you're picking and it's been really hot and humid and wet and you've got some mold on some of your vegetables, get rid of those. Put them in the compost because you don't want those spores, in your body. But pick them, wash them, dry them. Put them in the crisper until you can get to them. We have a fruit and vegetable soak that we use, and a spray for getting rid of any dirt or any crud that's on your vegetables. Always wash, even organic vegetables. We have chemtrails. We don't know what's falling on it. You have bird droppings. A lot of birds might have parasites. So you want to make sure that you're washing your fruits and vegetables. Oh, speaking of fruits, I've got figs coming on my new fig tree. So I'm really excited about that too. And I planted 2 elderberries this spring. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get any elderberries this year. They have to grow a little bit more. But that's another thing that I want to learn to do is make elderberry syrup because it boosts the immune system. There's just so many things that we can do in the garden. So you're going to clean your fruits and vegetables. You're going to, when I do my green beans, and again, my green beans don't look like they're going to do well. I'm going to have to do a fall crop. The deer, they just ate the living snot out of my green beans, and they've never done this before. So I'm going to have to find something that repels those deer. A whole bunch of blooms will come on, and then I'll go out there, and sure enough, they'll be topped off, and they'll eat them all. So we want to make sure that, we bring in our harvest and we wash it up real good. If you are getting some pesky winged creatures that magically appear, maybe some of the fruits and vegetables have been out on the counter too long, and you've got those little bitty fruit flies or whatever, here's a diffuser recipe that you can use to get rid of them. 2 drops of basil, 2 drops of peppermint, 2 drops of lavender, 2 drops of clove, and 2 drops of eucalyptus radiata. And that should clear that out. They don't like those smells. And you can do it while you're canning or, freezing, just to make sure that anything that maybe came in will dissipate. Make sure that if you use storage containers that they're clean. I like to use Thieves dish soap because it doesn't contain any sulfates or dyes or formaldehyde, and it seems to keep my veggies, fresher longer. So I don't know what, we've talked about several DIY recipes so far. Which one is excited you the most? Put it in the chat so far. Okay, so now, like I said, canning season is right upon me. I've got to freeze squash tomorrow, and I've got to can some tomatoes. I probably get about 3 quarts because you got to keep up with it. You just got to keep up with it. We could talk about using oils forever with canning. When I make applesauce, I like to use cinnamon oil. There's just so many, if you make tomato sauce, like spaghetti sauce, you can use oregano, or for a while, we had an Italian seasoning essential oil. We got it on a special quite a while ago. I don't think I have any left now, but remember that these oils are very, very concentrated because they're the liquid form of the plant. And so for a large pot of spaghetti, you're only going to use, and a large pot meaning like 8 quarts, you're only going to use maybe 2 drops of oregano and then taste it. If it's a smaller pot, take a toothpick and put it down in the oregano and just swirl it around in your pot and then taste it and see, and you can add flavors like basil to your tomatoes, to give it a little bit of a kick, a little bit of a boost in flavor. And then when you go to make whatever you're going to make with your canned tomatoes, it's already got a little bit of basil in there or a little bit of oregano. So, I wash my jars in the dishwasher, and then I take them up while they're hot. My tomatoes are all ready to go into the jars. I add 1 teaspoon of salt to each quart of jars, to each quart jar, and then I fill it to about 1 inch of headspace, and I'll run a knife down the side to make sure that there aren't any air bubbles in there, and then I process my lids and put those on, and then I'll process my tomatoes I do a water bath with tomatoes for about 25 minutes at a rolling boil. And then that's enough to keep them from getting any botulism, and they'll last until they're gone, which one season of tomatoes will last me a little more than a year. So I date them. I date the lids on the top, and I always use the oldest ones first. And I don't have any tomatoes that are older than last year right now. I keep up with that kind of stuff pretty good. Okay, so the gardener just needs to take as much care as the gardener needs just as much care as the garden. You know that we love our plants, and when we are willing to break our backs and scrape up our fingers and endure biting bugs, although if you use this insect repellent, you're not going to get any biting bugs. We give those gardens the best that we got. I have spent literally hours and hours every day. And Young Living knows that you're just as important as the precious plants, and it has a whole host of products to help you care for yourself too. So stiffness can be one of the things that I deal with the most after being on my knees or, on my bottom, weeding for 3 or 4 hours at a time. So what I do for sore muscles is I take an Epsom salts bath with Aromaseas or Cool Azul. That's my go-to. And I know that you've heard me say that before. You can also use Deep Relief Roll-On or Pan Away for sore muscles. Simply roll or drop the oil on in the area that you need to give relief. I've actually, put drops of Pan Away in my hand, rub my hands together, and then rub my legs, all up and down my legs and my feet. I'll put it in, massage my feet if my feet are sore from walking all over the yard all day. So those are the kinds of things that I use when I get stiff. I also take sulfurzyme, and I really believe that that helps as well. Lavender is an oil that no gardener should ever be without, and it helps to cleanse and soothe minor skin irritations. So if you get a thorn in your finger, or you scrape your hands, I wear gloves, but still you can. I'm real good at breaking nails out there, even though my nails are really hard from taking all the sulfurzyme that I take. You can be digging too hard and then snap a nail. But if you do get any minor skin irritations, use your lavender oil. And also, lavender is great for soothing the skin after you've been out in the sun. Now, if you're eating plenty of greens, you don't need to worry too much about sunburn. However, and I don't get sunburn with this. However, if you want to use a sunscreen, we have I think it's 10 SPF and a 50 SPF. But with this and a hat and long pants, and I just don't have any trouble getting sunburn. Now, I went on the river a couple of months ago, and that reflection of the sun on the water gave me a real pink. So I came home and I sprayed lavender all over my face and my, wherever I got real pink from sunburn. There is a DIY soothing stick that you can make. If you forget to apply your outdoor spray, this roller recipe is going to be very, very helpful. It's 5 drops of lavender, 5 drops of purification, 3 drops of peppermint, and then a carrier oil of your choice, and add the essential oils to a 10 ml roller and fill the rest with Young Living's V6 vegetable oil complex or your favorite carrier oil, and apply it as often as you need. So this is a soothing roll-on for your skin. But again, I don't get sunburn. I'm very, very tan. You know, for as light skinned as I am, and my skin stays moist with the insect repellent, so it doesn't get real leathery. You know, you'd think at my age that my skin, as much time as I'm in the garden, that it would be very leathery, and it's not. Also, on this area of my chest, I will put the Art Nighttime Reconstructor, because that's really good for keeping that area moist and supple, and it doesn't get all wrinkly and dry and leathery. That's the whole thing. You know, if you're out in the sun, not laying out there trying to get a tan, but just working, you got to do things to protect your skin. So about everything else that I want to give you, above everything else, I want to give you a heartfelt thank you for listening to my little gardening class tonight. Gardening is very near and dear to my heart, and sharing ways to improve the gardening experience is an honor and a privilege for me to do that for you. If you have any specific gardening questions, I may or may not be able to answer them, but we're going to open it up after the next slide. I am deeply passionate about gardening and believe that we all deserve better health and wellness. And that applies to everything that we do and everything that we love. And I hope you were blessed by this class tonight and that you learned something new. So maybe you want to start gardening. Again, if you have any particular questions, if you're not a gardener, if you've thought about it, start small. Maybe container gardening is a way to start. Growing herbs like rosemary and lemongrass. You have to take lemongrass in the winter, it will freeze. Maybe get a bag and fill it with good composted dirt and start your first potato crop. You may not get very many, but they'll taste better than any potatoes that you'll ever buy in the store. So I want to thank you again, and I'm going to stop the share and stop the recording. Stop the recording. Where is the recording?